we are cleaning the brooder. The first step was we took everything out and wiped everything down. And then the second step was we taped 6 pee-pee pads together on top of a tarp and taped it onto the floor so that they wouldn't scratch it up and move it. Then we set down this, which you could get at Tractor Supply. It's like a little six square thing.
Corral. Chicken corral. Yes.
And basically we bought 2 and we put them together to make a bigger one because it's less poop and they fight less because they have more room to play around. So once we put this down, then we put down
Sweet PDZ, which is for odor, just in case.
And then once we've done this, now our next step, at about 5 or 6 weeks, we switched to the fine pine shavings rather than the large ones. So these small ones are softer on their feet and we like them a lot better. It's a lot easier to clean up. So this is what we do right now, and then we'll show you a little bit later once we have more set up.
Now,
so when you're putting the pine shavings down, they'll come out in chunks like this, and you really, really have to make sure that you either do it with your hand like this or take a rake and break it up, because you don't want big chunks to poke them in the feet and then get bumblefoot. So they run a higher risk if you leave it in chunks like that. You really want to use your hands and separate everything out to make sure that they're not more susceptible to that.
and there's no
And you have to take out like big chunks. Sometimes there will be sticks like this in it, so we take them out. But just make sure you separate everything out with your hands and you don't just throw it down. So the next step after we put down the deodorizer and the pine shavings is we put pool noodles down, because we found that it helps stabilize these panels and it helps if the birds come to fly up and perch. It doesn't really hurt their feet on the sharp part. We just cut a hole down. We got these at Dollar General for $1. So we just cut it and we put it all the way around, and it kind of helps, like I said, stabilize it, and it helps not hurt their feet if they come and perch on the corner. So the next step after the pool noodles is we set up 4 bricks right here, and then we use a 2x3 across those 4 bricks in the center of the brooder as their perching bar, and they love this.
They graduated up from a
So they
small.
started out with small ones, kind of like this size, like a dowel size. And then now they just have this one. And they, like I said, really love it. So the next step is we take these baskets from the Dollar Tree and we cut out a hole so they have a place to hide if they need to. And we put their food and water on top of these. And it's just a place for the hens to hide from the roosters if they need a little safe space. So we set the baskets down, and then now we put the 7-pound hanging feeder down, and then this is a 5-quart poultry drinker. We started out with the tinier ones, like this. We started out with this with their food, and then we also used the small water, but now that they're bigger, it's a lot easier to have the larger ones. And I suggest using plastic, because we started out with galvanized and it's harder to clean, and I just don't like them as much.
And then we also cut out a pee-pee pad to cover the top of the food, because they love to fly on top of that.
And poop.
Yes.
Okay, and then the last step, once we put their food in and everything else is in, we put this on top to make sure that they don't fly out and poop everywhere around our spare bedroom. So this is a mosquito net, and the size is for a king size bed, and we got it from Amazon, and we'll link it below in the description box. It has helped us tremendously because they still get to build up their wing strength, being able to fly really high. Before we had just a netting going across level, and it kept a lot of the smell in, and it didn't really let it air out as much. So this has been a really great purchase for our brooder. So I just want to touch on the heating. So most people will go for a heat lamp like this. It's a lot cheaper, which is why people normally gravitate towards this. But I don't think that this is such a good option. because you want your chickens to get used to natural daylight and then into nighttime. Where it's this, they can't regulate between day and night. So we suggest, what we used was the Ecoglow heater, and we got it from Amazon, and we'll link it down below in the description box. But with this, they could see daylight all the way through nighttime. There's not a light always constantly on, and the legs adjust. So when they were really little, we put it all the way down very low. And as they've gotten older, we've lifted it up, and now we've weaned them off this completely. So we don't have this in our brooder anymore, and I think this is a very, very important purchase that you should spend your money on. So just a side note, we actually started with this. My dad made this for our chickens, and we used this for about the first 3 weeks before we eventually transitioned them to the larger brooder. And this works out really well. It has hardware cloth on it, and they're plywood all the way around with a frame, and this lifts up and down.